Good morning. How are you this morning? It's a little rainy and a little bit dreary, but it's supposed to be sunny for the rest of the day, so it should be a nice, wonderful day out. Welcome. I'm Mary Winters. I am the owner of About Senior Solutions, and you're watching Visionary Aging. We have a great program for you today. We have retired Judge Mary Thorton House with us, and she's going to talk a little bit about how probate works and also how you can mediate some of those issues before it winds up going to court. So a very special treat, wonderful guest for our program today. We also have Steve McCullough on, and he has a caregiver question. And pets are a big topic right now. And obviously a great company for older adults, but what kind of pet should you look for? Also, we have a wonderful birthday, and we're going to go ahead and jump right on over to him right now. This handsome here today. Hi, I'm back. And we'll go ahead and bring Steve on with us for his caregiver question. Beth, let's see if I can find his video first. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Where's Steve? We've got him somewhere here. All right, little lineup. I might pop somebody else up by accident, but let's see. Here we go. We're trying. I got it, I think. I'm making it work. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Morning, Steve. How are you?
Good morning. You found me.
Yeah. So tell me, what is your caregiver question for the day?
So my am I still there?
You're still here, but we're experiencing some technical clicking problems. So.
Okay. Can you hear me though?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah.
Excellent. Sure. All right. So yes, my caregiver question has to do with animals, and it's from a person who's living in the assisted housing, and they want to know if there's a pet adoption program for seniors and how if they will like come to them, or how will seniors, is there like a program for seniors to adopt pets?
There are programs all around. In fact, our guest today had some experience with that. But pets are actually a little bit on a shortage right now, as far as in the humane societies, local humane societies. But be on the lookout for somebody who may have to move, or someone who's not the right fit for a pet. Pets are fantastic, though. For an older adult, I would just make sure that it's a dog who maybe is a little more mature, and you just have to be careful of any kind of trips, that you don't fall over the dog, because that does happen sometimes. So making sure that they may be well trained. And I think we'll have Bob Wilcox come on in a few weeks and see if he can talk to us more about training that new pet that you have, so that you stay safe in your house and get some exercise. It's always a good thing too.
Right. I would imagine you want someone, a pet that's not too active, not overly active.
Right, right. But it is great to have a reason to get up and move around and take your pet outside, and make sure that,
very therapeutic
activity too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it's very therapeutic for both the pet and the owner.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, any plans for the weekend? Valentine's Day.
I know. We shall see. It's kind of weird because it's a COVID Valentine's Day, so I might be on quarantine.
Okay. All right. Well,
hopefully not.
We have Judge House on with us today, and
I'm excited. I actually did a little bit of mediation when I was in college. I'm excited to hear her stories.
Oh yeah, no, she's a fantastic judge, and just so fair and very insightful. I think that's also really important. Somebody knows the law, but I think it's also important to have a human side and really be able to connect with people and understand their situation with empathy. And I think she was fantastic in probate. So I'm looking forward to having a little chat with her this morning.
Very good. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, have a good one, and we'll talk to you at the end of the show.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. And here we go. We have everybody on. So we have Judge House is on with us today, and I want to do a little bit of an intro on her. She started her career as a private neutral for alternative resolution as a retired judge, and she works for a company called ARC. We know that also as Alternative Resolution Centers. And she spent over 8 years presiding over probate matters in Pasadena and the Moss Courthouse, which is downtown, in addition to over 9 years as an independent calendar civil court. She's known for her gracious but relentless pursuit of settlements for the benefit of all parties, and I would absolutely have to agree with that. And the other interesting thing about Judge House is that she was an assistant city attorney and city litigator for the city of Los Angeles. She is a graduate of UCLA and received her Juris Doctorate from the University of San Diego. And Judge House is a member of the Los Angeles Lawyers Editorial Board. But she's also written some really interesting things too. So let me go ahead and we'll introduce Judge House. If I can click the right button here, and we'll bring her up to have a nice discussion this morning. So let's see. Good morning. How are you, Judge House?
I am great. I actually have some information about the pet issue.
Oh, good.
Pasadena, if you are a senior and you adopt a senior dog, it's completely free.
Oh, really nice.
They waive all the costs of neutering and chipping and everything. So it's seniors for seniors across species, I guess. So
that's great.
Anyway,
yeah. So
first, it's wonderful to be here. I am so honored that I was asked to talk about the probate court and also talk about mediation opportunities. I don't know where you want to start.
Well, let's talk about demystifying what the court system's all about.
Okay.
And I think people hear the word probate, but they're not really sure what that means. Let's just kind of break it down a little bit so that people understand what probate court is.
Sure. Probate is a very unique type of court, type of discipline. And every other type of case that are handled by judges, like criminal and civil, juvenile, family law, small claims, the judge basically is a referee. They preside over the lawyers doing the arguments and then are either persuaded or not, or the judge or the jury is persuaded or not. Probate's very different. You probate's what we call a court of equity. And the mandate of the judge in probate is to do the right thing within the discretion of the judge and the bounds of the law. And the overarching purpose for probate is to protect vulnerable persons or potentially vulnerable persons. So in other words, I think we're sitting there trying to make sure people aren't taken advantage of.
Right.
And there's three, I call it 3.5 parts to a probate court. There's arguments over trusts, arguments over wills or intestate succession. And intestate means you've died without a trust or a will.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first category. The second category, which I think is really of more interest to your viewers, is the conservatorship over dependent adults and guardianships over minors. You'd be surprised and be saddened by how many children in LA County have lost their parents either through death or to drugs and alcohol. Yeah. So that other family members have to step in and take over being the surrogate parent. And the third little quirky area is there's all kinds of unique petitions that can be brought in probate. One of the most difficult cases I ever presided over was a fight between a sister and a wife over the brother husband. It actually got an article in the LA Times about it. The poor husband, brother, had fallen into a coma at age 38. He didn't have an advanced health care directive.
That's something really important. People don't realize that you don't need to be older to really need those things at 18, right? You should.
Yeah. If I had my way, when you register to vote or get a driver's license or sign up for the draft or whatever, you'd be required to fill one of these out. So he had nothing, and his family felt very strongly that even though he was in a persistent vegetative state, that he wanted to live. And the wife, knowing him intimately, knew that he did not. And so they were fighting over who was going to make the healthcare decision to basically take him off all the machines that were sustaining his life. So that's kind of a third category, which also includes sometimes people fight over disposition of a person's remains.
Oh, sure. Wow.
You know, like a mother and father lose a child who's married to a wife they never liked. All right. And they want to make the arrangements. And the wife says, no, I want to make them. Or you may have situations where someone has never designated someone to take care of that for them in the event of their death. And so another family member or a neighbor or just a close friend petitions the court to be able to make those arrangements. So there's a lot of things going on in probate court that I'm sure the public's not aware of, and I've just kind of touched the surface of it.
Oh, no, and I'm aware of some of those stories too, and I've had some of those situations where they didn't go to court. They could have gone to court, such as dad passed away, they divided the ashes, and the sister went and stole both of the vases of ashes. And of course, that created a huge stir. And eventually, I think she shared the ashes. Mom was still living too, so I thought that was also interesting that mom didn't get any, but the sisters were fighting over the ashes.
Well, you know, it's really interesting. I'm not a licensed psychologist, but I find when both parents have passed away, particularly in trust and will contests, the filters are off. Mm-hmm. You know, mom and dad were sort of the glue that kept everybody together, and they're gone, and the resentments and all of the, you know, he threw me in the pool when I was 7, kind of, I hate my big brother sort of come out in adults. It's not, it's sad to see, but, and the problem is the court can't solve those issues. A mediator can't solve those issues. All a court can do is follow the law, take into account the needs of the parties within the framework of the law. A mediator can listen and sympathize and empathize with the hurts of the past. But that's, I tell people in mediation, we're on a 2-lane highway to resolution. All right. One lane's the emotional lane,
Ah,
and one lane is the financial lane. And I can't help you on the emotional lane. I tell people I'm not a licensed psychologist, but it's okay to travel toward resolution dealing with those issues. But you really do, are you going to see me moving you into the financial lane? So at the end of the day, you don't have the additional hurt of feeling like you didn't have control over the destiny of your case or your outcome. Maybe it's an outcome you didn't particularly want, but it's one you chose as opposed to giving it up to a judge. I think that's what always surprised me the most, that people will come into court and ask me to make decisions about their life,
yeah,
and they didn't even know me.
right, right.
You
It's
know?
kind of like we talked a little bit about somebody else watching your children.
Yeah,
Some people
yeah.
won't allow that, and
Unfortunately, it's the, judges are human, so judges have human issues. For example, I have a bias against dentists. I know I have it, all right, because I had a dentist that hurt me when I was a child. I thought was cruel, and I shake and have anxiety attacks if I have to go to the dentist. I mean, I know this, right? So early on in my judicial career, I'm presiding over a case about a dentist that was accused of overdosing sedatives for young children. And I was sitting there having chest pains.
wow.
So I went home and I called, of course, you call your mother, right? And I called my mom and I said, I think I might have to go to the ER. I'm having these chest pains. And she goes, well, honey, what kind of case are you handling? I said, oh, it's about this dentist. And she says, dear, you hate dentists. And I went, oh, yeah. And all of a sudden the chest pains went away.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, so it's kind of what we call implicit bias. Sometimes we don't even know we have them or have it. So judges could have a background that you know nothing about, and you are placing the control of your life, future life, into a judge who will try his or her best. Believe me, we do. We take courses on how to recognize bias. We take courses on how to, figure out what, tweaks us or triggers anything that we might have. And we take courses on how to guard against it or how to deal with it. But it still happens. We're human beings.
Sure.
So.
And it must be really challenging too, especially when you see a mental health issue on one side, and maybe they can't see through the weeds as far as where their accountability is, or why what they're asking is odd.
Yeah. I don't know that I guess you could call it a mental health condition. I think it's sometimes more an issue. I think denial is a mental health phase, and you have so many children, even though they're adults and maybe even seniors themselves, in denial about what's going on with their parents.
Yeah.
One the oldest may be more in tune with mom, or the one who lives closest to dad, and the dad and the mom can present pretty well for a while and even do pretty well in court. But when you look at the doctor's reports, when you look at the evaluations by a aging life care professional, that there's real problems there. And so that's kind of sometimes where the fights come in.
Yeah, and it's valuable information too, I'm sure, because I know when I've gone in and spent some time with an individual, sometimes you don't pick up on it the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, but then you start digging and asking some questions and realizing that we have some decision-making problems here.
Yeah, I mean, or for example, first of all, to get a conservatorship, a neurologist has to sign what we call a capacity declaration. And that advises the judge of the level of cognition and decision-making capability that a person may have. Then the probate examiners go out and interview proposed conservatees in their home, and they do with resources, the best investigation they can do. And they give information to the judge as well. And I remember having read all these reports, and then a gentleman whose children were trying to get a conservatorship came into court, and he was sharp as a tack. I mean,
boy.
he said, I don't need this conservatorship. My children are just trying to are worried about me spending their inheritance. You know, and went on and on. But I knew from reading the reports that he had a persecutory delusion that aliens were living in his back guest house.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they were asking him for money. So I've seen I was able to say, well, let me ask you about your guests in the back house. Oh, yeah. And he went on and on about the aliens. And of course, everybody in the audience was just shocked.
Sure.
But that's not unusual, quite frankly.
Is that something also important for you to ask so you have it on record? And so there's a record of this individual. I know it's in your documents that you're reading, but is it important for you to have it on record?
Well,
too?
It's never my purpose to embarrass someone, but it is important to have it on record because at the end of the day, if this goes up on appeal, if there's a public inquiry, either judges are subject to discipline. They call it a commission on judicial performance. And one of the top 3 causes of discipline are not bribe taking and not anything serious. They are demeanor and manner, not preserving the due process rights of others, and not disclosing potential conflicts. Those are like the top 3. And so you do need a court record that shows the language you used was neutral, shows that you were not out to embarrass or hurt a person, but that you were required to have that record available for that. And then, unfortunately, the media comes into the courtrooms and they watch, they look at court cases they think might be interesting. So, we're in a fishbowl existence.
Certainly another reason why somebody may want to mediate, because then it stays private, correct?
Yeah, I sometimes I find myself in mediation saying, if this goes all the way to court, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands and literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on experts, on court fees, on attorney's fees, and that will all be at the sake of the dignity of your mom or your dad or your person you're seeking to be conserved. And I'm sure the lawyers have told their clients this. I'm sure they have. But I think sometimes it means more when someone who has my type of experience is expressing it. I've never thought much of the judge title because it's such an honor and it's humbling. I'll never forget the first day I took the bench. That robe was the heaviest item of clothing I've ever worn in my life. Wow. Just the whole burden of it. But it does seem to impress people. So.
Well, and I think you've said too, something to the effect of being the best friend for the moment, or.
Oh yeah. In our business, with every decision you make, you have a temporary friend and a permanent enemy.
There you go.
So yeah, and the thing is, people are very civil. They're a bit obsequious to us. They're always, yes, Your Honor, yes, Your Honor. But they're in the hallway complaining. How could the judge make that decision? What an idiot. We hear about these things. We know this. So yeah, but, the beauty of my former job was that at the end of the day, I was to follow the law and do the right thing within the bounds of the law. And the beauty of my new career is that I'm not making decisions for people. I'm helping them reach a resolution.
And I think, let me take you back to a situation that I know you had in court. And sometimes there's some really horrible people really taking advantage. But I think you're able to see through, or with the information that you get, you can see good people too. I don't know if it hit your court or not, but there was a gentleman who you had mentioned a while back.
Oh yeah, the case of the honest gardener.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many cases we've seen. It's that I've seen in the area of financial elder abuse. So like a caregiver, or a gardener, or a maid, or a next door neighbor will kind of come in and take over a senior's life. Say, oh, let me help you pay your bills. And, And then, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars later, that poor senior is out of money, no place to live. Sometimes they take their homes, they get titles signed over to them. It's really horrific. But I had a case once where the gardener was in that scenario helping a gentleman who needed care, and he would write checks out for the bills and everything. And this gentleman fell and broke his ankle and ended up in the hospital, and seemingly had and did not have anything but a distant cousin from Michigan that he'd never met, family members. So social workers were called in, and it wasn't known what his financial resources were, but there was a private professional fiduciary convinced to take the case for free. And they go to his house. It turns out he's a bit of a hoarder. And in the court, and they also saw that this lovely gardener had built a ramp in anticipation of his friend coming home. And they found bank records where he had hundreds of thousands of dollars just in a checking account and millions in stock.
Oh my goodness.
And so, needless to say, when this poor gentleman also, they found out in the course of breaking his ankle, had cancer and had very short time to live. So we were able to convince him to do what we call a substituted judgment. And every person who's going to be conserved or is asked to be conserved is appointed their own lawyer by the court. So this court-appointed counsel spent hours with him working out an inheritance plan. And needless to say, the honest gardener became a very rich gardener.
Oh,
but
that's wonderful.
In light of all of the horror stories I've seen, it was a very deserving ending. So yeah, there can be good people in this world. Unfortunately, in the court system, you don't see them that often.
I know.
It's very rare, very rare.
I know. We always see the ugliest of these situations.
Yeah.
The horrible son or the horrible neighbor and other people that just really find a opportunity and take advantage.
Yeah, it was really interesting. They did. The gentleman was brought to court, and I actually stepped off the bench and sat down next to him in the courtroom and had a long talk with him, which is very unusual. But I said, were you aware that you were worth hundreds of millions of dollars? And he goes, well, I knew I had money, but this came as a bit of a shock, so. So, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It was one of the more rewarding cases I've done.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that too, because it's nice to know there are good people. We know there are good people, but it's nice to hear that there are good stories that come into court too.
Oh, yeah.
And then you decided to retire, but not really.
No, I'm actually busier than I planned on being. There aren't a lot of probate judges that have the years of experience I have. And I feel very lucky because I never practiced probate as an attorney. I was the city attorney for the city of LA. I represented fire departments and the fire department and the police department. I met my husband, who is a retired firefighter, through work, and I actually represented the LAPD canine unit. So I literally had dogs for clients. But the first day I took a probate calendar, it was like I'd come home. I was saying things and thinking things that I didn't even know I knew about. And so it was a comfortable position for me. It's a stressful position for judges. You're never dealing with, no one ever comes into court for anything happy except maybe a wedding or an adoption, or the quirky name change. Okay. So you're always dealing with unhappy people and people that don't want to be where they are. And probate is times 100 where that's concerned, because people have lost a loved one, or they're fighting over money between family members, or they're having to make hard decisions for family members and loved ones. They're having to assume responsibility for minors when they themselves, maybe as the grandparents, kind of wanted to take it easy. So you deal with a lot of pain, and you feel it, in the courtroom. So yeah, these happy stories are important. And so having 8 years of that is unusual. The burnout factor is quite high. So I'm lucky to have been able to have those experiences and be able to translate them now into a format and a way of helping people that I never thought I would enjoy as much as I'm enjoying.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the situations that come into mediation.
Well, you know, since this is talk about pet days, you know, I recently dealt with a case that the person who passed away left all of her money to her dog, which can't be done. You can set up pet trusts, and actually the court, again, probate having unusual powers, can set up a trust itself, and there's a whole bunch of conditions to it. And the human heirs were fighting over the fact that this was an improper disposition of the estate, and it was. But the goal, my goal was to honor the decedent's, if I were the judge, would be to honor the decedent's wishes to the degree that the law allows me. As a mediator, I can be a little bit more creative. So that's one type of case. The very common case, though, like in conservatorships, are the kids fighting over who should live, who mom and dad should live with, where they should live, what kind of care they should have. I worry that some of them are worried that their inheritance is being spent. Well, you know, it is the money of the person who earned it until the day they die. And in court, I saw a lot of 70-year-olds coming in to conserve 90-year-old parents, and then the 50-year-old kids, the grandkids of the 90-year-olds and the kids of the 70-year-olds saying, hey, wait a minute, they're spending our money. And it's, you know, they got to realize, you know, that every penny should go to the support and care of that person. It's their right. And so a lot of it is kind of shifting people's perspectives.
Right. And sometimes I wonder, if somebody didn't have any money, how would you take care of them then?
Well, you know, there are situations where that's the case. And again, this is good people engaging in a fight. You know, the oldest child says, it's my responsibility. I want mom or dad to live with me. And the youngest goes, no, you won't treat them right. I'll be a better caregiver. I mean, you have them even when there isn't any money involved.
Right.
Unfortunately, you know, mediation is expensive, but it's a lot less expensive than a long, drawn-out court battle. And you know, and sadly, with this unprecedented pandemic, court calendars are reduced. It's taking a long time to get cases calendared through no fault of the court. It's just, we need to keep, I say we, I still feel like I'm a part of the court. The court management needs to keep the place safe for its employees and for the consumers that come in the doors. So this is going to have a long-lasting impact in probably every facet of our lives. I've always worked at home. I never worked at home. I've always made a deal to keep home separate from work. So what you're seeing in my background is my guest bedroom, where I've set up an office. And the quilt in the back was actually inherited from my great-grandmother, who made it in 1920. So it's a Spanish flu quilt.
Beautiful.
So yeah. So I don't have the plaques and the Lady Justice anywhere in this room, but hopefully we'll get back to normal, where work can be work and home can be home.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're seeing different scenarios. I don't know if you see them in mediation or not, but I personally have seen many situations where people want to move their family member home because of COVID, or they're fighting over which sibling wants to keep mom, or
I am hearing from my colleagues and friends who are private professional fiduciaries and lawyers who represent them, that, you know, when this first hit, there was a real thought that get them out if there's a place for them to go, because of the the problems with the homes, and some were able to do that. But the fighting still continues, which is unfortunate.
It is. It is. Well, I am so appreciative of you being here today. And because you are with ARC and we are talking with retired Judge Mary House, why don't you give us your contact information so
okay.
people can get a hold of you?
Well, the website is ARC, Roman numeral 4, ADR, which is basically Alternative Resolution Centers for Alternative Dispute Resolution.com. And the main telephone number is 310-284-8224. And you can certainly go online and look at the array of neutrals that are available. We call ourselves neutrals. Array of neutrals that are available to assist you in resolving your problems outside of court. You don't have to file a lawsuit first to use our services. If anything, you can do, I have done pre-lawsuit resolution matters because it was of benefit to everyone. We're definitely quicker than the courts in reaching a resolution, and hopefully. When you travel that 2-lane highway to resolution, you feel like you've taken control of your destiny and the outcome. Whether it's one you particularly wanted or not, at least it's yours and you've owned it. And I think that's important.
It is. And you have something that's completed and behind you so you can move forward.
Oh, yeah. I've had people email me later that they said for the first time in years they slept because it was done. It was not, and they've thanked me. And you never get thanked as a judge, that's for sure. Or if you're thanked, it's not, you don't know how genuine it is. But since most of these people have nothing to prove to me or worry about me making a bad decision for them, I feel comfortable that it's pretty genuine. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, Judge House, have a fabulous weekend and a great
you too. Happy
weekend.
Yeah, I wore red.
There you go.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
I've really enjoyed being here. Please ask me back if there's anything you need answered or discussed about the court system. I'm here for you. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Right. I'm lucky to have somebody of Judge House's caliber here on our program. Feel really fortunate to have her involved. And let's see what Steve has to think about Judge House in our short program today. Isn't she fantastic?
Oh my goodness, how could somebody be so smart and yet so gracious and so pleasant and just so down to earth? So impressed.
That is Judge House. And
yeah,
I highly recommend
amazing.
If you need mediations, absolutely to go to her with ARC.
She brought up a lot of good points. Like the courts are going to be swamped when and if things open up again.
They already are.
Already. Yeah,
they already are. And it's interesting too because the good thing I think about court right now is we're not having to drag older adults in. I mean, I've seen older adults gurneyed in from hospital beds or from gurneys and ambulances, and this just makes so much more sense to have someone appear in court this way. So some people are appearing in person, but many are appearing on what's called Court Connect. So I just think it's so much smarter with an older adult, not dragging them around. But anyway, I am so happy it's Friday, and thank you so much for being on. We'll have Bob on in the near future so we can talk more about pets. And you enjoy your weekend.
You too. Have a happy Valentine's.
Thanks a lot. All right. Let's see if we can find our extra video so we can all go home. All right.
Bye.